that.
In progress.
I would like to request for a volunteer to lead the prayer on si Alan. Alan, do you mind leading the prayer tonight? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. In the name of the Father, Lord, bless us, our facilitator for this review. Bless reviewing and hoping, Lord, makapasok po kami lahat sa forthcoming for exam. Uh, Bigyan po kami, Lord, ng wisdom at tiyaga at oras para mag-aral at kayang exam.
Puputol
Jesus'
siya, Jeff.
name,
Or ako.
in the name of the Father,
Okay, Alan. Was it Alan na ano, na napuputol or on my side? Can you, ganun din ba yung
Parang
napuputol
kay
din si
Sir
Alan
Alan lang po,
sa
ma'am.
inyo or ako lang?
Parang kay Sir Alan lang po siguro yun, ma'am. Clear yung voice mo, ma'am.
I see, okay. So I hope Alan or you would be able to also listen to me, baka nakakat din ako sa part mo. Anyway, I would like to show here our lesson for tonight and connected with the table of specifications as provided by the Professional Regulatory Board of Environmental Planning. So we make sure that it is consistent with it. Can you see, Mark? Can you see this one? The one I'm sharing?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay. We are here on we are on the area 3, okay? Still 35% plan implementation, legal aspects, and plan administration. Uh, in environmental planning. So we've done local government code, EIE in the past. So still we are following the Bloom's taxonomy, and it comprises different levels, remembering, creating and evaluating. This is the most challenging aspects of the board. Now, I would like to share, okay, letter A, legal foundations of environmental planning. And then I am still in area 3, okay. And then letter B, sorry. So, we've done this earlier. Natapos na rin natin yung mga RA 511, but of course, I will repeat it. And then was the RA 11032 of 2018 in the practice of environmental planning. What is this again, Mark?
Yung ease of doing business, ma'am.
What
Yung
is
ARTA.
110?
Yung
Okay,
ease,
good.
yung
Yeah, I heard it. I heard it. That's why I said very good. You still remember. Now, letter B. Okay, we are on letter B kasi yung letter A kanina is legal foundations of environmental planning, which comprises the cultural heritage laws, ganun. So we've not done yet this one. And then housing laws, and then section or we need to also harmonize it with the MTPDP, and then some laws. So list or the Zoom, you can see some lectures on uh, laws governing natural resources and environmental protection with subnational planning. Again, what is subnational planning, Mark? In practical terms, what is subnational planning? So we call this regional planning, okay? In the hierarchy. So we've done also some laws on regional planning, and then assess important laws governing natural resources and environmental protection with subnational planning. So it's all connected with regional planning, and then development controls. So we need to do some zoning also, zoning laws. So dalawa na yan, zoning laws, and then yung mga hindi pa natin tapos, and then I will do it all over again. So physical planning. So this was quite very interesting topic also, yung EIA. I've done that a few days ago. So madami itong EIA, ano? So, in the TOS. Now we're here on number if key milestones, laws and rules and regulations and environmental planning practice, and then the ease of doing business. So both have accomplished. Please check the Zoom recording. But I can guarantee we will do it again. Okay. We still have time. And so we are here, program project development and implementation, principles, methods, and instrument used in the design and appraisal of project viability. So let me check economic tools. So we've done also economic planning. Remember the which tools have we done, like location quotient? Madami din ito, no? Or LQ. So, hindi naman tayo magko-compute dito, and just we need to do some principles and many more. Like we will review anyway. Ano na ba yun, Mark, yung tools dito on economic planning? Madami yung qualitative and quantitative. I think we've done like complete 5 days ito eh.
Yung mga input-output ito yung mga
Analysis. And then meron pa yung yung balance sheet, pa gano'n, planning balance sheet.
balance sheet.
Okay. So, yun, isa-summarize ko ulit yun later. Just to note that we've done that already. So, statistical analysis. Ngayon, planning administration. Because they were stated here generically. But I think it's easy to interpret or have, we can figure out naman which topics are under here. So under letter C is planning administration and professional practices. Number 1, major public sector reform measures toward good governance. So ito yung mga iba-ibang so ano daw yung mga national, regional, and local planning initiatives that are linked to making it a major public sector reform measure. Parang ganun. Then I'm supposed to do this one, 4.4 and 4.5. So if I read this one, identifying planning and implementation structures for areas national to local and sectors, public, private, peoples, including indigenous communities. So if we have the IPRA, okay? The IPRA, the governing law involving indigenous communities and peoples, or IPs. And then 4.5, analyze planning and implementation structures for areas national to local and sectors, including, so there was dito sa nilagay nila, we need to look or pay attention to what it's trying to tell us, na kailangan mag-focus din tayo ng indigenous peoples because madali man lang itong public, private, other sectors, but it is a special sector kasi yung indigenous communities. And then programming, okay. So 4.4 and 4.5. So I'll share this one now so we can proceed to stop share. So okay, I'll proceed with the mm, salient features of the IPRA. Hindi ko na-open. Open. Open goodness. Let's see. Okay. Now I will share my slides now. Screen. Start broadcast. If I go here, I hope you're seeing it clearly. Kaya, no?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So this was enacted in 1997, okay? So please remember 83. Alan, mamaya basahin mo yung mahaba na na provision dito. So this was enacted in 1997. The IPRA is the primary legislation recognizing and protecting the rights of the indigenous cultural communities, or ICCs. So ito nga, basahin mo, Alan. Ano yung niya, si Mark na lang, mahina yung internet niya, baka mapuputol. Mark, do you mind?
Yes po, ma'am. Section 3, definition of terms. For purposes of this act, the following term shall mean: A. Ancestral domains. Subject to Section 56 hereof, refer to all areas generally belonging to ICC's IPs, comprising lands, inland waters, coastal areas, and natural resources therein, held under a claim of ownership, occupied or possessed by ICCs or IPs by themselves or through their ancestors, communally or individually since time immemorial, continuously to the present, except when interrupted by war, force majeure, or displacement by force, deceit, stealth, or as a consequence of government projects and other voluntary dealings entered into by government and private individuals or corporations, and which are necessary to ensure their economic, social, and cultural welfare. It shall include ancestral lands, forests, pasture, residential, agricultural, and other lands individually owned, whether alienable and disposable or otherwise, hunting grounds, burial grounds, worship areas, bodies of water, mineral and other natural resources, and lands which may no longer be exclusively occupied by ICCs or IPs, but from which they traditionally had access Two, for their subsistence and traditional activities, particularly the home ranges of ICCs or IPs who are still nomadic and are shifting cultivating.
Okay, thank you. Quite sobrang haba, 'di ba? But it's just it's we try to clarify um ancestral domain. So that's under section 3 of the IPRA. So it's referring to all areas generally belonging to ICCs and IPs. So kanina, Mark mentioned lands, inland waters. So please memorize that. Lands, inland waters, coastal areas, and the natural resources found within these territories. These are the areas held under a claim of ownership, diba? Either occupied, so there was emphasis on either occupied or possessed by ICCs and IPs themselves or through their ancestors, whether communally or individually, and this possession dates back since time immemorial. Domains have been held continuously up to the present, except in cases where occupation was interrupted by war, force majeure, or displacement due to force, deceit, stealth, or as a direct result of government projects or any voluntary dealings entered into by government and private individuals or corporations. So the intent is to ensure that these ancestral domains are preserved and protected, recognizing their necessity for the economic, social, and cultural welfare of indigenous communities. So this recognition acknowledges the unique and historical connection of ICCs and natural resources, which is, which is an essential element of their identity, survival, and development. So it is without it was not obscured, it was very clear, it was verbalized, we don't need to interpret because expresses it very clearly. Okay, so we have distinction here. So I provided here two sections on ancestral domain. So section 3 kanina, it was a definition. Okay. So but there's section 56. And it says there, however, the recognition of ancestral domains is subject to section 56 of the IPRA law, which states that all property rights existing and or vested prior to the law's effectivity, such as titled properties or registered rights, shall be respected and recognized. So we need to do some, ano yung ibig sabihin of these two? There's someone of this doing. if this is the exact provision, Mark. Tingnan nga natin kung yan lang talaga ba yung content mo. Or ganun din kasing haba nung. Can you pull out um, I'll just look at it. Then, can you pull out yung ano, yung law mismo? Mm, meron bang nakakita na? Anyway,
Yes,
meron ano? Mahaba ba?
konti lang, ma'am.
O sige, pakibasa.
Section 6, existing property rights regime. Property rights with the ancestral groups already existing and or vested upon activity of this act shall be recognized.
Okay. Tapos na ba yun? No? So, okay. For section, so, ito, okay. However, so it said, this recognition is not absolute. So that's the main thing there. Section 56 serves as a limitation or qualifier. It provides that any property rights that were already existing or vested prior to the effectivity of the IPRA law in 1997. What we mean by that, if it's titled, there's land patents or other registered rights shall be respected and recognized. In other words, if a valid land title existed before IPRA took effect, the new recognition of ancestral domain does not override or invalidate that title. So this is important for planners because it establishes a balance that the law aims that the law we are referring to the IPRA aims to correct historical injustices and secure the rights of ICC's IPs to their traditional lands, and at the same time it protects the rights of those who acquired property in good faith and in accordance with previous laws. So it will not override. Now, when we are, for example, okay, we're all planners here, and then there are also surveyors, and then we are identifying or mapping ancestral domains. They must always check for existing registered titles or property rights. So these must be respected as the provision have expressed, and any overlaps or conflicts need careful documentation and resolution. This also means that ancestral domain claims are not automatic. They require careful investigation, documentation of long-term possession, and validation against existing records. In cases where ancestral domains and titled properties overlap, dispute resolution mechanisms either through the NCIP or the courts may be required. So, for example, a municipality is revising its CLUP, and during mapping, an area is identified as an ancestral domain of an indigenous group based on customary possession dating back generations, diba? Since time immemorial as expressed in Section 3. However, within that area, several lots were legally titled to private individuals in the 1970s. So under Section 3, the wider territory may be recognized as ancestral domain, but under Section 56, the specific titled properties from the 1970s are respected. They're not simply canceled by the new recognition. So, that's what it means. Tingnan ko ito. May ano dito, Section 56. Alan, tingnan mo nga yung ancestral domain. Mahaba ba yung ano? Same lang din, ano? Binasa mo na yung sino pa ba? James, can you read this one? What is ancestral domain?
Hello po. Hello.
Hello? Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, ma'am. Ancestral domain. It shall include ancestral lands, forest, pasture, residential, agricultural, and other lands individually owned, whether alienable, disposable, or otherwise, hunting grounds, burial grounds, worship areas, bodies of water, mineral and other natural resources, and lands which may no longer be exclusively occupied by ICC's varieties, but from which they are traditionally had access to for their subsistence and traditional activities, particularly the home ranges of ICC's varieties, which are still nomadic and or shifting cultivators.
Okay. So, uh, dito muna. Okay. It shall include ancestral land. So, in this particular definition, so it clarifies the scope and diversity of what is included in ancestral domain. So what does it say here? That forest, pasture, residential, agricultural, and other lands individually owned, whether alienable and disposable or otherwise. So, it addresses lands that may no longer be exclusively occupied but are still traditionally accessed by ICCs. So, okay, hang on because we have this also. Ancestral domain. And so it's indeed a broad concept, right? That that goes beyond mere land ownership. It encompasses not only ancestral land, but forest, pasture areas, residential and agricultural lands, and any other lands that may be individually owned, whether these are considered alienable. Okay. It says even hunting grounds, burial grounds, worship areas, bodies of water, mineral, and other natural resources. So importantly, the law recognizes that ancestral domains may include lands, okay, I mentioned already, no longer exclusively occupied by the ICCs and indigenous people. So what matters is that these lands and resources were traditionally accessible to them for their subsistence and traditional activities. And so this is especially relevant for ICCs who are still nomadic. Who are still nomadic. So what do we mean by nomadic and or shifting cultivators? As their connection to their ancestral domain is defined by customary, customary use and access rather than continuous exclusive occupation. So I think this is not really very hard to understand. But here, continue mo nga ito, James. Let's see. Parang ganun din yung dito yung binasa natin kanina, no? Force majeure, etc. But we are defining ancestral land. So what do we need to know again about ancestral land? So it's a broader concept, and then yung that possession must have been continuous up to the present unless there was an interruption due to war. So that na-tackle na natin ito. And then it the coverage, okay, that ancestral land covers various types of property, including but not limited to blah blah blah, residential lots, even the rice terraces or paddies, etc. Kalagay din ito. Rice terraces or paddies, private forests, Sweden farms, and tree lots. Okay. So these are lands that even if now held individually remain part of the traditional territories and heritage of ICCs and IPs protected under the law against dispossession and encroachment. Um, if we go here, so we need to understand now what's the concept of ownership. So if I read this one, the indigenous concept of ownership generally holds that ancestral domains are the ICC's IP's private but community property which belongs to all generations and therefore cannot be sold, disposed, or destroyed. It likewise covers sustainable traditional resource rights. And so this concept sustains the view that ancestral domains and all resources found therein shall serve as the material basis of their cultural integrity. So, mahirap ba ang So, this is section 5. I-check nyo lang later how the verbatim um, provision of section 5. This concept affirms that ancestral domains and all resources within them serve as the material foundation for the cultural integrity and survival of indigenous communities. So it is telling us that it is a physical asset. The land is a physical asset, but it's also attached to their identity, culture, and way of life. So that's the one. I think this is also clear. Now we go now to the rights of the ICC's IPs to their ancestral domains. Okay. So first there is rights of ownership and possession. Okay. So what do we mean? So rights of number one there is there. Okay. So ICC's IPs have the right to own. Pag sinabing ownership and possession, have the right to own, occupy, and possess their ancestral domains, and this includes the recognition of both communal and communal and um, individual, ano? So, So they have the these are claims, communal and individual claims anchored in their customs and long-standing um occupancy. Then now for the right to develop lands, they have authority to manage, develop, and utilize their lands, and resources found within their domains. This enables them to pursue economic development. So they can also pursue economic development, di ba? Economic development. All right. Um, while preserving their cultural heritage. Now here, right to stay in the territories, ICCs have the right to remain in their ancestral territories free from involuntary relocation or displacement. So you cannot just displace them, and their continued stay ensures that preservation of their way of life and cultural practices. Then situations where displacement is unavoidable, such as the event of natural catastrophes, or the law provides specific safeguards. Ito yon. A, um, in case of displacement caused by natural catastrophes, the state shall endeavor to resettle the displaced ICCs, IPs in suitable areas where they can have temporary life support system. Okay? And then B, the displaced ICCs, IPs shall have the right to return to their abandoned lands until such time that the normalcy and safety of such lands shall be determined. C, if their ancestral domain cease to exist and normalcy and safety of the previous settlements are not possible, displaced ICCs, IPs shall enjoy security of tenure over lands to which they have been resettled. And D, basic services and livelihood shall be provided to them to ensure that their needs are adequately addressed. So, did you, I think we are okay with the rights in case of displacement. Okay, let me check here. Then they also have number 5. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, right to regulate entry of migrants into the domains. So, indigenous communities have the authority to control and manage the entry of outsiders or migrants into their territories. This unwarranted settlement, exploitation, or disruption of their traditional life. Um, and it's designed to protect also their territory from encroachment, um, and avoid exploitation or destruction of natural resources by outsiders. 6, right to safe and clean air and water. That's easy to remember that and this affirms the community's right to a healthy environment, specifically the quality of air and water within ancestral domains. So it places a legal obligation on both government and private entities to refrain from polluting or degrading these vital resources, thereby supporting the community's health, subsistence, and cultural integrity. So, right to claim parts of the ancestral domains which have been reserved for various purposes, except those reserved and intended for common and public welfare and service. Okay, so these IPs can assert claim over portion may have been reserved for these uses. What are these? Like military, uh, public works, or government projects. So yeah, provided these areas are not set aside for broad public service or welfare. So this recognizes that ancestral claims persist unless lawfully and necessarily overridden for the greater public good that I mentioned earlier, military, public works, and government projects. Now, right to resolve conflict. Right. That it must be here, okay, in accordance with customary laws of the area where the land is located. So conflicts over land, resources, or rights should first be settled using the customs, traditions, and dispute resolution mechanisms of the indigenous community concerned. This recognizes their autonomy and upholds cultural integrity. B. Only in default of such customary laws shall the complaints be submitted to amicable settlement and to the courts of justice whenever necessary. So, if a dispute cannot be settled within customary structures, either because no suitable customary law exists or parties cannot agree, only then should the matter be brought before formal mediation or the regular courts. So this principle prioritizes indigenous justice systems first, okay, with state courts as a last resort. Okay, so that's what it means. Then, what are their rights to their ancestral lands? Right of ownership and possession. Of course, that's easy to remember also during your board exam. So they have, meaning they have full legal recognition of their ownership and possession of ancestral lands. Please remember that they have to they enjoy the same rights as any property owner under Philippine law, but such rights are anchored or based on tradition, long-standing occupation, and customary law. Di ba customary law means kostumbre, nakasanayan, nakaugalian. Is that correct sa Tagalog, ano? Costumbre, and are protected from alienation to non-members. Now, number two, right to transfer land or property rights to and among members of the same ICCs, IPs, subject to customary laws and traditions of the community concerned. So, transfer of ancestral land, whether by sale, inheritance, or any other mode, is strictly limited to members of the same indigenous community. These transfers must follow the community's own customs and traditions to prevent fragmentation of ancestral lands and guard against the loss of collective heritage. Third, right of redemption by the transferor, ICC, IP, within a period not exceeding 15 years from the date of transfer. So, what do you mean by that? That the law grants ICC's IPs the right to redeem or recover ancestral land that may have been transferred to a non-member of the community, and it may be redemption may be exercised within 15 years if, okay, here, if the transfer was made by virtue, okay, of any agreement or device was made to a non-member of the concerned ICC's IPs. So they can do that. And then letter B, the transfer um is tainted by the vitiated consent of the ICC's IPs or is for unconscionable consideration or price. Transfer occurred under circumstances that compromise the free and informed consent of the indigenous owners, or if the sale or transfer was grossly disadvantageous, for example, at a price or consideration that is unconscionable. So, and so these are the rights of redemption. Mm. So what are the responsibilities of ICC's IPs to their ancestral domains? So there are three responsibilities here. Of course, maintain ecological balance because um, they're not only entrusted with rights over their ancestral domains, but they have the duty to protect and conserve these areas. And they're, as such, okay, they're expected to manage natural resources in a way that preserves ecological stability, ensuring that, of course, we are talking here about future generations, so that the future generations inherit also a healthy and viable environment. And so that's also expressed in the 1987 Constitution, right? So it is actually ano na ba yun sa Bill of Rights? I forget the section. So number two, restore the denuded areas. So indigenous communities are responsible for rehabilitating degraded or deforested portions of their ancestral domains. This may involve reforestation, soil conservation, or restoration of watersheds as part of their stewardship role over the land and natural resources. Then they observe laws. So while ICCs and IPs exercise self-governance and apply their own customary laws, they are also required to comply with national laws and regulations, especially those related to environmental protection and sustainable resource management. So they have that dual compliance to their to national laws and their customary laws. So they are they have their autonomy, but they are also they also have to adhere to. So there's a question: secure a title over the lands they're occupying. So nakalagay na dyan yung that the April law um, expressly provides the option for ICC's IPs to secure formal land titles over their ancestral lands, and it was expressed in Section 12. Okay. It says under Section 12 of this law, an option to secure title to their ancestral under the provisions of Restoration Act is granted to. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So to qualify, the following conditions must be met. Okay, number one, the applicant must be an individual member of a cultural community and the land must be individually owned. Then, so you read first number two and then second. So it means the number two there that there must be continuous possession and occupation by the applicant or their predecessors in interest of the land for at least 30 years immediately before the approval of the IPRA. Okay. Then third, such possession and occupation must be as an owner since time immemorial or must be uncontested by members of the same ICC-IP. So in other words, the claim should be required or should be recognized by the community and free from disputes within the group. So it must be keywords uncontested. Okay. So concept of an owner. Okay. So um s- okay. Ancestral domains are not simply parcels of land claimed by indigenous peoples. They're territories with deep historical, so sabi ko kanina, no? Attached to their identity. So, they are territories with deep historical, cultural, ecological, and legal significance. So, for planners, special attention for several reasons because of this ecological ancestral domains often cover large, diba, ecologically significant areas. So can you tell me, okay, let me just look for some, ang dito. James, do you remember? Ano yung mga, asan na yun? Ano yung mga coverage niya? Ancestral domain cover large ecologically significant areas such as what? Number one, forest. Ano pa? Can you hear me? Jen? Nawala yung share. Sana siya. Parang wala nang, natulog na lahat. Stop share and then I'll share again. Hello, James. Are you there? Share. Okay. Share. Sino ba to? Si Jumel. Andyan ba si Jumel? Wala ko. Wala akong nakikita. Here. Oh, Monica, by the way. Monica, can you remember?
Ma'am, forests,
Mm-mm.
watersheds,
Mm-mm.
agricultural areas, and settlement areas.
Yes. So how about river systems also? Can you, yeah, coastal zones, ganun, ano?
Yes pa, yes.
Okay, so these lands are not only crucial for biodiversity, um, conservation, but also for climate regulation, as you mentioned, watershed protection. They're also, as I also mentioned, that is attached to their cultural identity, uh, and other, and our how we should value their traditional knowledge system. So the continued stewardship of these areas by ICC's IPs has in many cases ecological integrity better than those privately held lands. So also we need to incorporate ancestral domains into CLUPs and other statutory plans. Under the CLUP, we are required, as planners, we are required to identify, delineate, and protect ancestral domains within their jurisdictions. And so this means no zoning plan or municipal land use policy is complete without accurate mapping of these areas. Even in the higher hierarchy plans, higher level planning must also integrate ancestral domain claims, especially when planning infrastructure, DRR, or disaster risk reduction, protected areas, and resource management. We must include ancestral domain claims. Even in environmental impact assessments, projects affecting ancestral domains require not only technical studies, but a thorough consideration, and that's why it's always included in the board exam, because consideration of IP rights, their customary laws, and communities, or the Manobo forest protection rules, mga ganon, they're often are aligned with principles of sustainability and resilience. And and of course, these practices are have the objective, to prevent over exploitation of resources and maintain ecological balance as expressed or in the 1987 Constitution. And then, of course, we need to also to promote biodiversity, and we need to build adaptive capacity against environmental threats. So, here the FEIC. Okay. So this prior informed consent. So FPIC it's a fundamental requirement under IPRA before any development, resource extraction, or government project may proceed within ancestral domains. So we must strictly observe before any project should take place, or before um, any land use change within ancestral domains can commence. So what's the implication, especially for us? It's a process, right? It's a process. Genuine consultation and the right of the ICC's IPs to approve or reject proposals. Also, in the implementation stage of any project, no infrastructure, land conversion, or extractive project in ancestral domains should proceed without written proof of FPIC validated by the NCIP. Failure to secure FPIC can invalidate government actions and expose projects to legal challenges. Also, in regard of participatory planning, planners must facilitate you're not just attending but engage seriously. Okay? And you need to facilitate participatory processes and must integrate IP representatives in planning bodies, committees, and technical working groups. Then here, customary laws and sustainable resource management. Indigenous peoples are recognized globally. Just a moment. Meron. So, and not only universally or globally and in Philippine law, as they are effective, they should be, or they are we treat them as effective stewards of their environment. Their customary laws and traditional knowledge systems often support conservation, sustainable harvesting, adaptive management, etc. So integration of indigenous knowledge should be preserved, or should be, we always have to, I'm talking about our role also as planners, that in our planning work we have to incorporate traditional land management systems, um like protection of ano ba yung mga ano nila, the kaingin, do you think kaingin by national laws, because they have this practices ano, and then yung they also have this indigenous fisheries practice and also agroforestry, but it should be regulated. Then in terms of disaster risk reduction, customary practices often include avoidance and resource pooling that can enhance the harmony. There should be harmony, or there it should be harmonized, so that to ensure that they are covered by that their customary practice adhere to uh, our current national laws. Then customary law is ups. Ano yun dyan? Um, ha? Lahat ba? Sabihin mo nga. Do you still hear me? Ha? Brown out?
Yes po, ma'am.
Oo, nagkaroon kami ng power failure, but because we are using data at the moment, so you can still hear me. So, paspasan ko. Brown out, nagulat ako. Um, but I need to continue. Ayan, yung rotational agriculture. Sino yung mga agriculturists dito? If you can also share what you know, what you know about this one. Meron bang IP dito? Maybe you can share later, no? So yung, yan, conflict avoidance and dispute resolution. Given overlapping claims and ambiguous land boundaries, so land use conflicts are inevitable talaga. And IPRA provides a clear hierarchy of dispute resolution. So, first, through customary law and indigenous dispute mechanisms. Nakalagay ba, no? So, nakalagay, second, through formal mediation. So, how do we avoid conflict? Okay, I will write here, customary law. So, what are the different dispute resolution? Ang gulo, ano? So, customary law.
Isilipin ko mo.
Oh, okay. I'm in Makati, pero biglang nagkakaroon ng power failure, but I will continue. Customary law and indigenous dispute mechanisms. Ano ba ba? Mechanisms. Number two, second is through formal mediation. Number three is through the courts. Through the courts. Okay. So, um, these are the hierarchy of this of all this resolution to us. Because we need to do mapping and documentation, right? So, when we proactively map boundaries and document all claims at the start of planning, and so that would be we avoid conflicts, di ba? And we don't go through this process. And what are the mediation protocols ito? So these are all available. So when disputes arise, we facilitate culturally appropriate mediation. But NCIP should be highly involved because it's the governing agency. And then we have the council of elders also that should be involved here, and then community leaders in all stages. Uh and so planning, the planning process we do, uh it is also a good way. It's also a good way. Um so well-crafted inclusive land use plans that recognize ancestral domains reduce the likelihood of protracted disputes. Then, urbanization and the rise of ICC. So, urban expansion often encroaches on ancestral lands. Poses a risk of displacement, a loss of access to traditional resources, and cultural erosion. So what again, I would like to point this out to you as planners that um ICCs, IPs cannot be involuntarily relocated except with FPIC, proper resettlement and full respect for their rights. Also, we need to integrate ICC IP communities in urban development plans, such as socialized housing, employment programs, cultural preservation initiatives, etc. Also, planners must advocate for titling, recognition, or registration of ancestral domains that intersect with expanding city boundaries. Um, Environmental services, and so what do we benefit? Um, what do we benefit from ancestral domains? Of course, they provide ecosystem services like clean water, air, flood regulation beyond the boundaries. So, um, clean water, carbon sequestration, flood regulation, uh, what else? So, there are, in the context of ecosystem services valuation, if we try to, we factor the benefits, provided by ancestral domains into land use and development decisions. I think this is the most challenging part here, that wala pa naman tayong valuation on ecosystem. I mean, if some researches already done in Philippines about any ecosystem services schemes or conservation incentives that can be used to support IPs stewardship. That would be a good context of regional ecological corridors and hazard zones when overlaying land use maps within or with ancestral domains. And a lot of innovative planning methodologies that could be done, especially through mapping, because this is a huge, scope, which which is the ancestral domain. And when we try to cross-reference all these things to related laws and planning instruments, so we can also see some sections or provisions in the local government code. So that's one. Um, that because it mandates that the local government code mandates that LGU recognize ICCs, IPs in their jurisdiction and in the LGU jurisdiction and involve them in development councils and planning bodies. Also, the EIS. So it requires genuine IP participation and consent in all environmental assessments for projects within or affecting ancestral domains. So that's very important. So I think I need to end it here. Um, I'm done with it. So those are the salient features of um, IPRA. Okay, so we need to really be very. At least we can leave this topic tonight, and we need to do a new topic again tomorrow. So as soon as siguro I need 2 more days so that I can go back to history and theory. Okay. So, or just one day, just one meeting to finish the environmental laws. Please, I encourage all those who are new here to things because yeah, parang natapos na lahat. Natapos ko na yata lahat, and I need to look for some more topics that I can incorporate, but still using the table of specifications as provided by the PRB. Okay, so I will now stop share, and then okay, Jen, take it away.